So with it looking increasingly likely that we will be finishing this season over the summer, what's that going to mean for players whose contracts expire at the end of the season? Today we're going to be having a little bit of a look into that, and we'll be going through every Championship club and looking into who is their best player whose contract is expiring at the end of the season. Obviously this could have quite the effect on loan players as well. For today's video though, we'll be focusing on people who are there on a permanent basis. So before we do head into anything, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. You can check out their link in the top line of the description down below. Really good footballing app to keep up to date with everything. Obviously it's still quite up in the air as to what the EFL is going to decide to do in terms of finishing the season. You know, when are we going to get back to playing football? When's everything going to get back underway? The best way to keep up to date with all the updates and everything going on is OneFootball. It's a really handy app to have, link down below. So if someone is coming towards the end of their deal, the contract is set to run up until the 30th of June, and then after that the player's out of contract. Is the EFL going to make a decision where people are allowed to sign on sort of a monthly basis to get this season done and over the line? We'll have to wait and see, but without any further ado, let's hop into this one. Leeds United, Gaetano Berardi. Berardi is one of, if not the most long-serving players at Leeds. He's been there for absolutely ages, and with the way that Bielsa likes to do things, you know, they don't have all too much depth in defence. Berardi's actually turned into quite a crucial team player throughout this season. Whenever he has stepped into that back line, he's always done a solid job, and Leeds have actually only lost one game when Berardi has started this season, and that was against Millwall away earlier on this season when he was wrongly sent off. He's very diverse in the fact that he can play at centre-back or at full-back. He can fill in quite a few positions for Leeds actually, and with them having not all too much depth in that area, Berardi has really stepped up to the mark this season. And sure, he can be a little bit rash at times and dive into challenges and stuff like that, but whenever he's been called upon this season, he's been a really reliable member of that Leeds back line, which has been so solid throughout the year, and I think that Leeds, they'd miss him definitely. West Brom, Hal Robson-Kanu. Can you believe it, in a team that's as star-studded as West Brom, Hal Robson-Kanu is actually their top scorer at the moment with 10 goals. I don't think that many people anticipated Robson-Kanu to play just as many games as he has ended up playing for West Brom. In the summer, when they brought in the likes of Kenneth Zohore and Charlie Austin, two quite well-known Championship strikers who have had good records in this league in the past, we sort of thought that Robson-Kanu may be pushed to the side, be used as that impact sub now and again, but we thought would be quite a way down the pecking order. That hasn't been the case this season, and actually Robson-Kanu has actually been probably the best fit into this Slaven Bilic system. He works off others really well. He gives them a little bit more dynamism in that front line, you know, where Austin and Zohore are a little bit more sort of immobile. Robson-Kanu can make those runs in behind and works quite well with the three that play in behind him, and definitely would be a miss for West Brom should he not sign a contract extension. Fulham, Dennis Odoi, another player quite similar to Berardi at Leeds, who's quite diverse in the positions that he can play throughout the back line, either at left back, right back, or in the centre. I think a few people, especially in Fulham's defence, had a bit of a dodgy start to the season, but in the past sort of month or so, I thought that Odoi was really coming into his own at Fulham, putting in some really consistent performances, and he has proved to be a really solid option for them recently. With Brentford, I'm going to go for Makacho. He's not actually played all too much football for Brentford so far this season. He's out injured at the moment. Last season did get a bit more game time overall. Has mostly been used as that sort of impact sub coming on into midfield. He's quite a tidy player. Last season we got to see really the best of him. It's a bit of a weird one for clubs in and around the playoffs at the moment because they're not going to know, you know, whether they'll be playing in the Championship next season or in the Premier League, and it's decisions like that which would influence a contract decision like this, I think. Nottingham Forest, I mean, Sabri Lamouchi's out of contract at the end of the season, so that would be a bit of a weird move if Lamouchi wasn't going to renew, but I imagine that that's going to happen. So in terms of a player, Nottingham Forest do have a few. Amiobi for one. I don't think that many people anticipated Amiobi to have the effect on Forest that he actually has had this season. A really quite unorthodox winger, but has come up with several big moments for Forest throughout the season with 3 goals and 7 assists. Another one to add to that as well, Ben Watson in there, who's really stepped up his game this season as their leader in the middle. Preston North End, Declan Rudd. I'd probably say since the turn of the year, Declan Rudd has been our most consistent player. I mean, he's kept us in several games. I think since the start of 2020, our performance levels had dipped off a little bit, and if it wasn't for some of the saves that Rudd was making week in, week out, we definitely wouldn't still be sat in the top 6, that's for sure. Lately, I think you've got to give him a lot of props. Paul Gallagher is another player whose contract is expiring at the end of the season, but I imagine that he's going to renew. With Declan Rudd, that one's a little bit more up in the air, I think. Bristol City, Ashley Williams. Williams was another one of those signings where at the start of the season I wasn't all too sure what to make of it really, but he's gone on and been a consistent performer for Bristol City throughout this season. Has filled in really well actually for Thomas Callas, who's been out injured injured for a lot of the season. Williams, of course, brings a lot of experience and composure to that Bristol City back line. Millwall, Murray Wallace. Millwall are one of the few clubs in the Championship who don't actually disclose how long their contracts are, but according to Transfermarkt, Murray Wallace is out of contract at the end of the season. If that is the case, would be a big blow for him if he wasn't going to extend that. With the system that Millwall will be playing under Gary Rowett, switching between a 4 and 5 at the back, when they do play with those two wing backs, they're crucial to the system, and Wallace on that left hand side has been absolutely brilliant this season. When Millwall came to Deepdale, he was an integral part of that system, bombing down that left hand side, making the overlapping run, stretching the pitch out wide. He's got a brilliant delivery on him as well. Cardiff, Danny Ward. Now Cardiff aren't looking too bad in terms of key players' contracts expiring. Lee Tomlin and Sol Bamba both recently signed contract extensions for them, so their best player whose contract comes to an end, we're probably looking at Danny Ward. I'd be interested to know from Cardiff fans, would you give him a new contract come the end of the season? Ward does tend to be quite in and out of the squad at Cardiff. His games to goal ratio isn't actually all too bad. He's only made 7 starts for them this season, then 15 appearances off the bench, and has scored 5 goals. I think he does have a bit of an injury record. Whenever he seems to be building up a little bit of momentum, seems to pick up a knock, and he's out for the next few weeks, and that seems to put him back to square one. So Cardiff fans, would be interested to know your thoughts on Ward. Blackburn Rovers, Stuart Downing. Downing has actually been thriving in this Blackburn side recently in a slightly different position. He's been playing a little bit deeper, where he can pick the balls off the centre backs and then look to make them tick moving forward, operating in those deeper positions. After his last season at Borough, this was another transfer which I wasn't too sure about, but it's really been the second coming of Stuart Downing this season with 2 goals and 7 assists. He's been a vital member of that Blackburn squad, and I would be shocked if they didn't offer him a new contract. Swansea City, Mike van der Horn. Now Swansea have had to be without Van der Horn since the start of the new year. He got injured early on into January, and with his contract set to expire in the summer, this is a situation that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, because I'm interested to see what both parties are thinking of this one. I mean, there's no doubt going to be interested in him over the summer. When he is fully fit, has the potential to be one of the best centre-backs in the Championship. With his injury, he was set to miss the rest of the season, but with the season now being pushed back, we may still see him once again in a Swansea shirt. Derby County, Chris Martin. I would be shocked if Derby don't offer Chris Martin a new contract after the form he showed this season. In 18 starts and 8 appearances from the bench, he scored 9 goals and got 6 assists. That is an absolutely fantastic return. Back in the day, Chris Martin used to be like an elite Championship striker, like he could get you 20 goals a season. In his last few seasons though, he'd fallen off a little bit. He went on a couple of loan spells out. I mean, he didn't really do much there. He went out on loan at Hull and Reading, where he only scored a handful of goals. But this season, he's been given the platform to play at Derby again, and he's absolutely been thriving. It's not even his goal contribution, it's his work off the ball as well, and the way that he makes Derby tick and the way he brings others into play around him. In terms of causing a nuisance for 2 centre-halves and bringing others into play, Chris Martin's absolutely excellent for that, and I think more than deserves a new contract for what he showed this season. QPR, I think it has to be Grant Hull. We have joked about QPR's defensive record throughout the season, but given credit to them, since the start of the new year, they have had a real upturn in form there, and a lot of that is down to Grant Hull and the consistent performances which he has been putting in there lately. Not to mention, he is currently one of the highest scoring defenders in the Championship with 5 goals so far this season. He scored against North End a couple of weeks ago, and he was excellent in that game. I think in terms of leadership at the back, QPR really would miss Hull if he was to leave in the summer. Reading, Jordan Obita. To be fair, Reading are one of the clubs who have quite a few players whose contracts expire at the end of the season. They've got 8 players, so they're going to need to tie some of these down surely. The 2 which stood out to me were Obita and Tyler Blackett. Obviously, Obita's someone who has been at Reading since the youth setup. He's been there for absolutely ages, came through the system there. He and Blackett both play out on defence on that left-hand side. Blackett can either play as a left centre-back or left-back himself. That's an interesting situation to see what Reading do with the pair of them. Sheffield Wednesday, Stephen Fletcher. Boy, did they miss his goals while he was out injured. 13 goals for Wednesday this season, is their top scorer. Wednesday, quite similar to Reading, are another club who have quite a few first-team players whose contracts are expiring come the end of the season. In terms of Wednesday, I do feel as if they are in need of a bit of a refresh, a bit of a clear-out in the summer. But Stephen Fletcher is certainly someone who I would be keeping hold of. He's got quality going forward. He showed that this season with the goals he scored. Another player who I wanted to touch on was Fernando Forestieri. His contract is also expiring at the end of the season. And Wednesday fans, what do you make of this one? Would you give Forestieri a new contract? We've not really seen much of him lately. Let me know down below. Birmingham, Lee Camp. Oh, Lee Camp. Where to start with Lee Camp? Birmingham fans, I want to know from you guys, would you offer Lee Camp a new contract with his current one set to expire in the summer? To be fair to him, he's been alright this season. Obviously, he does drop a clanger every once in a while. His positioning at times, I think, can be questioned. But I think this one all depends on sort of the ambitions of Birmingham and what their expenditure is going to be over the summer. You know, are they going to be able to get someone better than Lee Camp? Magoma's another player who's out of contract for Birmingham in the summer as well, so they got a couple options to consider. Stoke City, Stephen Ward. To be fair to Stoke, I don't think they'll be too concerned about the players whose contracts are running down at the moment. They've got Juve, Ward and Federici, whose contracts expire in the summer. Juve has barely played this season. Federici's come in and out of the squad at times for Butland when he's dipped in form, and obviously with Ward being at the age of 34, yeah, I'm not too sure. Moving to Huddersfield, Kachunga's contract is running out at the end of the season. I believe there is the option of another year in there, but Huddersfield fans, would you give Kachunga that extension so far this season, just scoring the 2 goals and getting 3 assists? We spoke about Kachunga a few videos ago. The Kachunga that got promoted with Huddersfield was absolutely fantastic, brought a lot of energy into that side, scored 12 goals that season. This season, the Championship though, I mean, the endeavour's still there, but I'm not sure the quality's still there completely. It's his composure in front of goals sometimes that lets him down. Another contract running out, Danny Simpson. Has he shown enough for you guys to offer him a new contract? Middlesbrough, Daniel Ayala, a real veteran of that Borough side. His future is really up in the air at the moment with his contract set to expire in the summer. Over the years, has been one of the most consistent defenders in the Championship, there's no doubt about it. Borough have got a couple to consider as well. Johnny Housen, who's been a really consistent performer for them this season, has slipped really well into that back three that they've been playing recently. He's another one whose contract's running out. Wigan, Che Dunkley, although not probably the best defender at the club for me, he's still their joint top goal scorer with 6 goals so far this season. Him and Kiefer Moore currently leading the way. Joe Gardner's another one whose contract I think is expiring for Wigan at the end of the season. I'd be interested from Wigan fans. Do you think he's justified a new deal? Throughout this season, Gardner's mostly been used as an impact sub. He's had 14 appearances off the bench and just the 9 starts this season, scoring 2 goals and getting 3 assists in the process. Hull City, Kevin Stewart. I mean, Hull squad at the moment is already looking quite thin, but they've got an abundance of players whose contracts are expiring come the end of the season. Kevin Stewart being one of them, and at the start of the season, for me, was one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. It was when Grant McCann first came in, he was implementing this new system. Stewart was playing that sitting role in front of the back four really efficiently. He then got injured, and obviously has come back into this side, which is absolutely fallen apart lately. Another player whose contract expiring is Jackson Irvine, although I believe the club do have the option to extend that by another year. I think the club's got to do that with Irvine and the consistency that he's shown at Hull over the past few years. Really do rate Irvine. Charlton, Lyle Taylor. This one's felt like a bit of a long time coming. There was a lot of interest in Taylor last summer in January, especially with his contract running out in the summer. It's not looking all too likely that there will be a renewal of that, and I mean, Charlton are definitely going to be missing his goals. He got injured this season. He's only made 17 starts for them, but in that time has still scored 11 goals. That's an absolutely fantastic goal return for Taylor this season, and there's no doubt that Charlton are going to miss him when he does eventually go. Luton Town, Harry Cornick, although I don't think he's always delivered throughout this season, he's still got a respectable goal return of 8 goals and 3 assists, which isn't too bad considering this is his first season at this level. Another one expiring is Kazenga Luwalawa. Always adds a little bit more to them going forward, a bit more dynamism. Only the 2 goals for him so far, but I think Luton would lack something if he was to leave. And then finishing today off with Barnsley, we are going to have Alex Mowat. Now, I read a report a couple of days ago that Barnsley were in contract negotiations with Mowat in terms of sorting out a new deal. I think that is going to be quite a pressing matter for them. He's been involved in 10 goals for them so far this season with 3 goals and 7 assists. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see if Barnsley were to go down if there was some interest from several Championship clubs in taking Mowat over the summer. I also believe the club does have the option to extend his contract by another season, so that's definitely one to keep your eye on over the next few weeks. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. So there is every Championship club's best player whose contract is expiring come the end of the season. What I want to know from you guys is the players that we have gone through in today's video. Would you offer them a new contract, and do you think it's likely that they are going to sign? But other than that will now wrap it up for today's video, guys. So if you did go on to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you do subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.